Hello, dear children. I invite you to a fairy tale about emotions. Once upon a time, in a colorful land called Emotionland, all the emotions of the world lived. Each of them had its own place and task: joy, sadness, fear, anger, and love. These were the main inhabitants of this magical land. One day, Joy decided to organize a grand celebration to celebrate everything good and beautiful in Emotionland. She invited all the emotions to take part in it. She prepared colorful balloons, delicious sweets, and lots of games for them to play. However, not everything went according to plan. Sadness felt too downcast to join in the fun. He sat alone on the edge of the forest, looking at the sky full of clouds. Seeing this, Joy decided to approach Sadness and asked what had happened. Sadness replied, "I feel lonely and unnecessary. I think no one would want me to be part of this fun." Joy smiled warmly and said, "Sadness, every emotion in Emotionland is important. You help us appreciate the happy moments because you remind us how sadness can make those moments even more precious." Meanwhile, Anger couldn't find her favorite red balloon and began to fall into greater irritation. Joy and Sadness approached her to help. After a brief conversation, Anger realized that she had lost the balloon because she was too focused on her irritation. Thanks to Sadness and Joy, Anger learned that sharing problems with others can help find a solution. Soon after, Fear felt terrified of the darkness that was falling over Emotionland. He didn't want to leave his home. Joy, Sadness, Anger, and now Love as well, who was always there to offer support and comfort, united their forces to show Fear that he was not alone. Together, they convinced him that darkness can be beautiful if only looked at from a different perspective, and that the presence of friends makes all fears disappear. In the end, all the inhabitants of Emotionland understood that each emotion has its place and significance. Without sadness, they wouldn't know joy. Without anger, they couldn't appreciate peace. Without fear, they wouldn't know courage. And without love, the world would be a much sadder place. And so, in this magical land, everyone understood that only thanks to the diversity of emotions can they fully experience life. From that day on, every emotion was celebrated, and Emotionland became even more colorful and full of life. When Emotionland embraced this wisdom, the inhabitants decided to build the Garden of Emotions, a place where every emotion could express itself in its unique way. Joy planted trees full of golden fruits that shone a warm light on anyone who found themselves underneath them. Sadness chose a quiet corner where a peaceful stream flowed, and its banks were lined with blue flowers that helped find inner peace. Anger built a labyrinth with high red walls, which was meant to help anyone who visited it learn how to deal with frustration and find a way out of difficult emotions. Fear placed a lantern in the center of the garden that shone a bright light, dispelling darkness and showing that even in the greatest fear, a path could be found. Love, being the force that unites all emotions, planted a huge rose garden around the entire garden, whose flowers of every color symbolized different kinds of love and friendship. Everyone who visited this garden felt surrounded by warmth and acceptance. Over time, the Garden of Emotions became a meeting place for all the inhabitants of Emotionland. It was a place where they could share their feelings, learn from each other, and together seek solutions for their problems. The children of Emotionland played together, learning that every emotion is valuable and that sharing them is important. In the Garden of Emotions, festivals were also held, during which each emotion had its moment to show something unique. Joy organized parades full of music and dance. Sadness invited to poetry evenings under the stars. Anger organized sports competitions where everyone could release their energy. Fear organized nighttime stories by the fire, helping everyone to face their fears. And love? Love made all these events truly magical because it reminded that everything we do should be done with love. Thus, Emotionland became a place where inhabitants learned to live in harmony with their emotions, understanding that each of them has its place and time. They learned that true strength lies in accepting themselves and others, and the Garden of Emotions was a perfect example of this. And although difficulties still sometimes arose, the inhabitants of Emotionland now knew how to deal with them, together with open hearts and minds. And they lived happily ever after, learning something new about themselves and the world of emotions every day, which can never truly be fully known. And so our tale of Emotionland, where each emotion has its place, and together they create a beautiful and balanced world, comes to an end.